I wake up all sweaty, as if I had run a half marathon in my sleep. Odd, I don't recall sleeping badly. Sends a little pang of worry through me. Wouldn't have to have my heart acting up without me being able to notice it. That is an understandable concern. Heart conditions kind of just do what they want more often than they don't, which is always concerning. Still, apart from this odd exhaustion right after waking up, I'm feeling just fine. My mouth is like sandpaper and I have nothing to drink, so I have to go all the way to the bathroom to take my meds. On impulse, I decide to take a shower while I'm at it. While I'm in the shower, I make up my mind that this counts as morning exercise. Showering? Dude, even I wouldn't call it that exercise, and I am not a fit man. If I properly compensate with a nice half-hour walk after school. Obviously, I wouldn't want to risk possible complications by going running now. Besides, Emmy will never know, and I think she's given up on me in any case, and I hate hearing that, if I'm being honest with you. I'm going to pretend I didn't. Walking could be nice, anyway, just to get to know the area. There's a big forest in the hills behind the school, or I could go down to the convenience store, of which there might be several conveniences. While still dabbing the moisture off my skin, I set out to find my uniform. I quickly button up my shirt and pull on my pants before going on outside. That's very important. You never want to leave without pants. Normally, during this time of year, I'd be eagerly awaiting summer vacation. Having only been at school for a little over a week, I don't really have that kind of feeling. I'm still savoring the school life and considering the sharp and awkward turn my life has taken. I haven't had the time to become preoccupied with getting free of it. Besides, once vacation hits, it'll be a nice surprise for me if I'm not expecting it, especially with the end of term exams looming ahead. At least I don't have any catching up to do with my studies. My diligence has finally paid off. I push myself past the boys gathered in the doorway and flop into my seat, as one is known to do. From the corner of my eye, I see Shizune and Misha pause their unavoidably animated conversation and turn almost simultaneously in my direction. They clearly want something from me. I can tell from the way Shizune smiles. It's too obnoxiously bright to be sincere and too calculated to be spontaneous. Good morning! Man, is it weird to go back in time before all of the stuff. My goodness, you too, I swear. Okay, well. It be what it be, I suppose. We'll just have to push ahead like we always do. Her greeting is made of 100% cheer and bursting energy. Morning. I failed to put either of those into my response. You don't look very energetic. No wonder. I don't feel very energetic either. I think I didn't sleep well, but I'm not sure. Who can say? Weh! She slaps me in the back and grins the way only Amisha knows how to do. Cheer up a bit. It's a great day. I catch Shizune's eyes. She has a strange, focused expression on her face, but she furrows her brow a little at direct eye contact and looks away. For a moment, I think Shizune caught a glimpse of my worries somehow and is pondering how to respond, but then she quickly straightens her glasses and with them, her expression. Anyway, we were wondering if you're still interested in that student council position because we're going to make an offer that you can't decline. Wait, what? I wasn't really interested in the first place. You're putting words in my mouth. Not as such, but wouldn't it be nice to hang out with us every day while also being useful to your school? Well, to tell you the truth, I kind of joined a club, so it'd actually be sort of hard for me to join the council, too. Even if I wanted to, which I don't, as I said. Is that so? Which club is it, Hee-chan? The art club. Oh no, Shizune is not a fan of the arts! Shizune's eyes glint in a sinister way as she scowls at me. With the way she looks, I'll be expecting the art club to lose its funding before lunch break, or the art teacher to mysteriously disappear from the face of the earth. Before she managed to comment, the teacher finally enters the classroom, getting Shizune and Misha off my back and setting everyone rummaging in their bags for books and pens. I did join the art club. You know, eventually, in my time in high school, I didn't even bother bringing a backpack. I just never did anything. I just kind of chilled, mostly napped. Anyway, I did join the art club, but the first meeting didn't really boost my confidence. I'm not really sure what I'm doing it for. Again, I gotta say, your first go of it wasn't that bad. I wish I could draw like Rin, but I don't know what I would do if I could. To what end would I use such a skill? I don't really know. You ain't that just the ultimate artist dilemma? Aha! I finally mastered the art of art! Now what? Doesn't really mean jiggity jack all unless somebody hires you. Ugh. Ignoring the teacher's sleep-inducing voice, I open my notebook to an empty page and press the needle-sharp graphite tip of the pencil onto it. What to draw? I can't really think of anything good to draw. Oh yeah, there it is. As I hesitate and raise my hand, a meek black mark left on the previous blank paper seems aggravating. I can't even seem to get to the starting line, let alone get started. It's almost a physical feeling of being held back. Annoyingly, it reminds me of my failed attempt at jogging with Emmy. Stop bringing that up! I look out the window in desperation. Right then, a small bird takes flight from one of the cherry trees that grows everywhere on the school grounds. Because, you know, man, Japan's got a lot of those. I can't really see it clearly, and it's not like I could tell one tiny bird from another, but I pick it up as a subject anyway. Actually, I don't know if the person in the comment section was telling the truth, but apparently the exterior shots of Yamako High is actually Brown University. So that's interesting, I find. Conjuring up the image of a bird in my mind's eye, I turn my gaze back to the notebook and deliberately draw a thick line across the paper to get started. Seems to be mocking me, as I can't follow up right away. Still, it's a start. Getting started is good. I slowly sketch the picture on the notebook page, the image of my brain becoming clearer as the drawing takes shape. It's really nothing, just that nameless nothing bird on paper, but that's not important. My hesitation for somebody who doesn't know how to draw, this is surprisingly decent! My hesitation fades into the background along with the teacher's voice as I continue my struggle. The feathers form a simple pattern in my mind, but on paper it's a mess of too many rough lines despite my best efforts. That's a better bird than I could draw! Show off. I realize that I don't really know what a bird's wing should look like. Yeah, I bet you don't. Okay, sure you don't. Even if I try to I feel like the person they got to make these drawings ultimately made it seem better than he actually is supposed to be. Even if I try to think about it, I even put the pencil down and closed my eyes for a moment, trying to trace the shape of a wing in my mind. Being this, oh come on, he even has the ability to like do foreshortening and like with a smaller wing in the back, and it's not even shooting out from an awkward or weird angle that actually looks like a bird's leg. I'm mad. Asshole gonna walk around strutting around school going, nah, I can't draw. Nuts to your face. Being this serious about it all of a sudden makes me a little frustrated. Art class in the middle school was the easy class in between exhausting subjects like math and Japanese. But there's other side to art, the one that you see when you don't just fool around. That's just a whole ass bird! Mumble, grumble, mumble. Almost like a completely different thing. Hichan? Nani? I look up to see the two girls staring back at me. Misha and Shizune have carried their chairs to my desk and are now standing by my sides looking at my drawing. Uh-oh. How long have you two been there? I think you need more practice. Rude. Shizune draws a few sharp signs in the air between herself and Misha. Shichan agrees. Rin said the exact same thing yesterday, but why did it sound less condescending? I feel like because she said it less condescendingly. You shouldn't judge before I'm finished. Besides, don't you know it's bad luck to see an unfinished piece of work? I know an artist and she said that that's the case. Misha cracks an exuberant laughter, as if that were unusual for her. What? Don't be silly. There's no way that could be true. Whatever. Shizune's eyebrows furrow dangerously, and the movements of her hands become abrupt like the slashing of a knife. You should learn to take constructive criticism better. I would if you'd actually offered some. All you said was, yeah, you need more practice. That's not a constructive criticism. That's just stating the obvious. I know I'm getting too defensive and that Shizune is taking advantage of it, but I can't help it. What are you two doing here anyway? Misha wags her finger admonishingly at my nose. Tisk, tisk, Hichan. Were you not listening to the teacher at all? Not especially, no. We have a group assignment now. I nod bleakly and let them take the lead. So, what do you think of the lesson for today? Not much of anything. I didn't listen to a word of it. Misha slaps her forehead and shakes her head theatrically. What are we going to do with you, Hichan? Luckily, Shizune and Misha together are more effective than 3 or 4 normal people, so I can mostly slack on the assignment. I try my best to offer at least some assistance, but I end up being mostly useless. Mood! All the mood is had this day. The teacher keeps us in class 5 minutes past the lunch bells, but eventually lets us off the hook. And I quickly stuff my books into my bag while Shizune and Misha carry their chairs back to their own seats. The failure of a bird drawing, how dare you, ends up crumpled and stuff in my pot. Oh, I'm mad. Oh, I'm mad. I do not appreciate. Do not appreciate any of that noise, man. Come on. Alright, fine. After that morning class and throughout the week, I keep bumping into Rin. Yeah, she does tend to be around. Hello. This is somewhat natural as our classrooms are adjacent, but rather than just cross paths in the hallway like people regularly do, we seem to pause at the sight of each other. We invariably end up talking a little bit or just silently hanging out together. I think I'm getting used to being quiet in Rin's company, as it doesn't feel as awkward anymore. I am, by nature, somewhat introverted like her, so we fit together well. I think it's actually an anomaly for someone in this school to be so quiet. Most people here seem to love socializing. It's something that I've noticed already, even though I haven't been here very long. People here talk a lot, and they talk all the time. It's a rare case when I see someone sitting alone just spacing out or whatever. Obviously, there are people like that here too, that Hanako girl and myself, just to name two from my own class, but overall they are a minority. At any rate, I wouldn't exactly call what RIn and I do socializing either, but it's something, at least. These occurrences themselves don't bother me, but the fact that they happen at all does. I'd hesitate to say that we are drawn together by something, but we certainly act as if we are. However, the sense of budding friendship is completely wrecked every time RIn opens her mouth. Oh, that's a little rude. Can I listen to your heartbeat? She says this, or something else about as outrageous, and I have to fend off whatever nonsense her mind has cooked up during the preceding class of a subject that she's not interested in. It seems RIn has taken a shine to my heart condition as some kind of an extension of her interest in the odder disabilities that people have here, and the consequences of said afflictions. As I stand in front of her for a second too long, looking as flummoxed as I am, she concludes it is necessary to further clarify her request. I know I can, but I mean, will you let me? Why? Do I need a reason? I'm usually pretty bad with reasons. Not per se, but if you want to do it, you probably do have a reason. That's kind of clever. You're smarter than you look. Also, I'd rather you not. I think these things should be private. Private. I get it. And I can tell you something, though, if it amuses you. I'm pretty sure it will. My heartbeat does sound very weird because of the, condition. And I hear it all the time. So you're paranoid. It's not a question, it's a statement. No, I'm not paranoid. The doctor said that the abnormal attention to heartbeat is a common symptom of my condition. So for you, it's normal to be paranoid. It's not a question either. One could also say that me being like this in the first place isn't normal either, but what the heck. Paranoia fits me fine. I don't think it's something that actually can fit anyone or anywhere. I ate an orange today for breakfast. Impressive. How was it? I'm vaguely proud of myself managing to keep up with RIN's sudden change of topic. You gotta get used to it. Excellent. I don't remember when I last ate an orange, because it's annoying to peel one. Yeah, I can only imagine. It's on the list of things I want to learn properly. How come you ate one then? Emmy had some, so she peeled one for me. Good for you. RIN stretches her back and yawns and says nothing further. She throws me a glance from the corner of her eye while she watches people pass by, but I couldn't say why. I realize, though, that this is the first time I've talked naturally about my condition with anyone, in a way. A group of boys walk past us to RIN's classroom, but she doesn't pay them any mind. They pay none to her either. My mind wanders off, spurred by the silence. Maybe I should have let her listen to my heart. It's not like it matters. Nothing really matters that much at the end of the day. I start feeling depressed for no reason again. It's like a tidal wave out of nowhere rolling over my consciousness, submerging me underwater. Ooh, been there, buddy. I feel a sigh coming out of my mouth, and I turn away from RIN, pretending to read a poster on the wall. It's an advertisement for the school festival, promoting an event almost a week past. The difference between me and RIN is that I'll be more likely than not dead before turning 30. That's not true. That's not true. I actually even looked into it. It's totally possible for you to get way older than that. Well, she can't eat oranges without help. I can't decide which one of us is worse off. I mean, not having arms really blows. Think about how often you use your arms for literally anything, people. And now imagine you can't. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to play games or draw. Like, goddamn, man, that would completely invalidate every experience of and skill set that I have up to this point. I try to grasp the passing of time, but it seems hard. I'm still used to the rhythm of the hospital. I almost said the rhythm of the motion, to the boogie, the beat for some reason. Where trivialities such as the day of the week or time of day didn't really matter. That's how I live. Everything was the same, no matter what. Rediscovering the significance of time is an oddly disorienting experience, and I find myself enjoying the fact that I can categorize events in this fashion. The relevancy of a ticking clock is surprisingly delightful, and I decide to start wearing an analog wristwatch, something I didn't used to do before. When I finally ask RIN on Thursday about something that's been bothering me for the entire week, it's already lunchtime. The time is around between 11:06 and 11:07, as my watch doesn't have a hand to show seconds, which is a little weird if I'm being honest. It's the old-fashioned kind with a black leather strap and titanium casing. Doesn't look flashy, but a wristwatch doesn't need to. Hey, remember that sketch you made of me? How you said I looked grim and gloomy or something? Well, I'd like to know what you meant by that. Good luck getting a clear-cut answer out of her. She gives me a weird look and tilts her head a few degrees to the left, but doesn't say anything for a while. Well, you see, we've known each other for 2 weeks, and I haven't seen you smile even once. Her striking observation gives me pause. Have I stopped smiling? You have to take what she says as true. She has no reason to lie. I mean, I suppose it's feasible you might have, and she was just never around when you did, but something about the way she puts it annoys me. I frown at Rin, then try to correct my expression to look less depressed. I haven't been in the cheeriest of moods during the past few months or so. This is true. There's so much that someone like Rin can tell after so little contact with me? Should I try to smile more at Rin? Maybe she could appreciate it having such a neutral face herself almost all the time. Have I really stopped smiling? I see. Should I smile more? I don't mind either way. Be as you are. You can't help being Hisao anyway. But it bothers you? I just noticed it, that's all. Suddenly, an Emmy has arrived. Emmy skips along the hallway, jumps to a sharp stop when she reaches us, and lightly pats Rin's shoulder. Ready for lunch? Depends on what lunch is today. Remember that stew from March? Never again, that. Let's go anyway, I'm starving. As they are about to depart, Emmy turns from her friend to me, seemingly as an afterthought, and smiles charmingly. By the way, Hisao, her tone is way too sweet and soft to be sincere. I can sense the trap about to be sprung upon me by this miniature health devil. I know what she's about to say even before she continues, because I've been trying to avoid her all week. I still haven't seen you at the track this entire week. Maybe I've been there when you haven't. That's impossible, I'm there all the time. But you sleep and go to class. I do those at the same time as you do. Yeah, I know, I just haven't been able to pick myself up. Don't rat me out to the nurse, okay? Running just isn't my thing, and I haven't come up with a good alternative. Why don't you come to the track meet this weekend? Maybe you'll get inspired. Track meet? Yeah, people from a few other schools come here for some friendly track and field action. It's on Sunday afternoon. I can't think of any reason not to go. Sure, I'll come and cheer for you. I guess you'll be running? Of course. You'll get to see me beat them all. But bye now. If I don't get something to eat, I'll die. See you later. And there goes, but the flip of a coin go we. Bye, Rin. I promise I'll smile next time. I call after her as a bit of an afterthought. Afterward, I feel embarrassed about it and wonder why I said anything at all. That night, when I'm doubly certain that Kenji won't be barging in the bathroom, I look in the mirror and smile at my reflection. That ain't no smile. The me in the mirror smiling at me in the bathroom looks awfully fake. Oof. Biggest of oofs. Just gonna straight up say it, man. That is oofs. Oof central. Oof master general. And that's just being, optimistic, I'd say. My goodness. Having exhausted the books Kenji lent me in just a few nights, I go back to the library, deeming it a safer alternative for getting my reading fix. Return the books he'd stolen while I'm at it, to Yuko's delight. I didn't tell her where I got them, though. Oh, you sure read a lot, don't you? Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I do. Even I think it's weird. I think I might have a reading problem. Maybe I'm some kind of book junkie. No, I didn't mean it that way. It's not weird at all. Being addicted to reading is a lot better than being addicted to, 99% of other things. Yeah, I know, it was a joke. I smile at her reassuringly and drop the books on the counter so Yuko can check them out. I feel tired, so I sit down in the vacant chair in front of her desk. While Yuko goes through the modest pile of reading material I found, I let my gaze wander around the librarium. At the tables, a pair of girls is chattering in hushed tones rather than working on their homework. What diabolical schemes are they plotting this day? The short-haired one notices me looking in their direction and waves at me. When I raise my hand back, they glance at each other and giggle in unison. I'm not sure how I should feel about that, so I decide it's a good thing. Yep, that's how I did it. The one who waved at me has a horrible case of epilepsy. Oh my. I started having an attack a few days ago, which was one of the most disturbing and scary things I've ever seen in a long time. I am not happy to say that I've borne witness to that too. Whoo boy. Yep, there she is, happily chirping away about whatever, as if she doesn't have a care in the world. This school is really something else. Yuko raises her eyes from a book she was going through, slightly startled. She adjusts her glasses and puts on a nervous, confused smile. What do you mean? I don't really know how to explain it. It's just that everyone's so active, or how should I put it? It's not just the festival thing. I think, even though I haven't been here that long, but it's everything. People talk more, work harder, and are more than in any other school I've seen before. I'm struggling for words, but it feels like I'm speaking honestly. The school feels so alive. Okay, suddenly we've got choices again. Okay. I mean, one of these feels pessimistic and the other one feels objectively optimistic, so how about we go with the nicer of the two? Sure, there were some people like this in my old school too, but not as many. And it feels more intense somehow. I think if I had to pin it down to one thing, that the students here really appreciate going to school. I don't think that's a bad thing. Yeah, me neither. Suddenly I realized that I've been babbling my thoughts to Yuko out of the blue. She's a bit of a jumpy person, so I fear I might have made a bad impression. She's looking at me with what I hope is curiosity rather than horror, so I figured she's alright. Sorry for suddenly talking about weird stuff like this. I didn't mean to trouble you. Oh no, it's not troubling. I'm happy to listen if you feel like talking. It makes me feel a little more reliable, too. Yuko smiles sweetly and a little bit ironically at that. I respond with a thankful smile of my own. As she pushes the neat stack of books across the counter, I stand up and gather them in my arms. Here you are. Thank you. I guess we'll be meeting each other again. Please come here anytime. Yuko's kindness is heartwarming. I would pat her head if it were physically capable. You can count on it. See you later. This has been an interesting story, to say the very minimum. The morning of the track meet greets me with a brilliant sunshine from a crystal blue sky. While I leisurely stroll towards the track, I decide this is a good sign. Of what? I am not sure. This event isn't as exciting for me as it seems to be for a large portion of the student body. I'm even less interested in watching sports than I am participating, but cheering for Emmy is a good cause. I'm not expecting this to be any sort of amazing and spectacular experience, but it can't hurt. I'd probably be spending the time reading while cooped up in my room otherwise. Suddenly, RIn approacheth, and man, just seeing her around just kind of hit different knowing that I'm on her route. When I approach the bleachers, I spot RIn emerging from the crowd right before she spots me, like a strong wizard emerging from the mists. You came. Of course I said I would, didn't I? That doesn't necessarily imply that you had to follow through. Lots of people say things and don't mean them. Well, I don't. RIn shrugs. Seemingly bored with our conversation, she turns on her heel and heads back towards the stands. So are you excited about this? Is RIn excited about anything? Not really. Me neither. Then why did you come? Why did you? She doesn't reply at all, so I decide not to either. We enter the bleachers and RIn nods upwards. Up there. RIn leads the way, and soon we've settled on an almost empty bench. Suddenly, Emmy's mom is here again. There's an older woman sitting next to RIn. Someone's mother, I assume. She's got rather long hair done up in a braid. On seeing RIn, she gives her an oddly familiar-seeming grin. Oh, this is surprising. I thought, deja vu! Deja vu, I have been to this place before. I thought you were to get a snack, not a boy. Eh? This is no good? The woman laughs at RIn and shakes her head. It's like a weird parallel adventure to the Emmy quest. That's why I waited so long for us to do RIn's story, because I knew there was going to be a lot of crossover with it, and I didn't want to immediately jump into that because it would make me feel even worse about the fact that I was no longer on the Emmy path. I mean, because that was a good story, man. The woman laughs at RIn and shakes her head as I get a hiccup. Apparently unable to find a comeback for that, I know the feeling. Well, I suppose you've always been one to go out for one thing and bring back another. But I'm being rude. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Mikio Ibarazaki. I'm sure that if you know this girl, you've at least met my daughter, too. Pleased to meet you. Ah, well, that explains it. She's like a taller, older, more motherly Emmy. Hey, that time you didn't mention her chest area. Interesting, that. Apart from her hair being somewhat darker than her daughter's, there's really no mistaking the resemblance. Sorry, I'm Hisao. Hisao Nakai. Nice to meet you. I'm Rin Suzuka. Miss Ibarazaki laughs again. She really does resemble her offspring, and then leans back a little on her seat and raises an eyebrow. And now this question is hitting slightly more different now, don't it? So, now that we all know each other, how long have you and Rin been dating? My response consists of silence as my brain suddenly lurches into gear. It was, seriously, and like the key wasn't even in the ignition of his mind, and now suddenly he's trying to finagle the stick shift into fourth gear to get an answer out. That's never gonna end well. But just before I can begin to utter a hastily babbled explanation, Emmy's mother bursts into laughter again. Tja, you're a blusher, aren't you? I don't know if there's any way to keep my dignity in this situation, so I settle for a mumbled response. We're not. I know, but it's funny to watch you squirm. You don't know. I'm sorry. Forgive an old woman her amusements. Again, I doubt you're even 40. Not just me, though, man. Old woman? She doesn't even look that old to me. I suppose I can let it go. How kind of you. It's starting. I direct my attention to the track where they're preparing for the first sprint. Looks like the 400-meter dash. Nice to see Emmy again, though. My eyes scanned the runners before finding Emmy. I also found Miki. Nice to see her again, too. She's smiling with an almost cocky look on her face. The starter raises his pistol, and you better believe there's a gun. Emmy explodes off the block, disappearing from the starting line in a blur. It's amazing. Even as the other sprinters converge on the lanes closest to the inside line, Emmy surges to the front of the pack. By the time she rounds the final turn, a few of the other runners have caught up with her. But she puts on a final burst of speed that leaves them at least half a second behind. She do be running mad fast. Mrs. Abarazaki whoops and shouts, applauding wildly and generally looking like any other parent cheering on their child. Emmy bounds off the track, looking pleased with herself. I cheer right along with the rest of them. The announcer, sounding suspiciously like Misha, gleefully gives the results. I feel like if I hit the right thing and went to skip dialogue, I could, because this is technically old dialogue, but I'm not gonna. I think she's gotten faster since the last time. That was incredible. Ms. Abarazaki grins proudly. Emmy's a heck of a runner. We fall silent as the next event prepares to start. I'm surprised to see Emmy striding out onto the track again. Wait, didn't she just run? Emmy's mother nods. Yeah, but she runs multiple events for the team, especially the sprints. Honestly, it's starting to feel like I'm not on Rin's path. Well, deja vu. It's a lot of running, but Emmy can handle it. For the look of things, she's right. Emmy doesn't appear to be tired, as if she hadn't run the previous event at all. If not for the visible sweat on her shirt, you never know. Which event is this? It's the 200-meter dash. As I said before, it's like the 400-meter dash, but less so. Half as a matter of fact. She'll do this one, the 100-meter, and the relay. I see. Once again, the pistol sounds, and once again, Emmy flies off the block. A thumping sound draws my attention away from the race. 'Tis Ren's foot. She's completely absorbed in the race. Emmy's mother cheers again, and I assume that the race is over. Sprints don't seem to me like they take very long to complete. Your foot. Your foot was bouncing on the bleachers. Oh, you seem pretty into this stuff. I'm surprised. I thought you said this wouldn't be exciting. I suppose you're right. It's not that interesting. But I'm watching Emmy, not the sport. I don't follow. Emmy is the most Emmy when she runs. You don't get to see Emmy at her Emmyest very often. But here, you can, see? She directs my attention toward the track where the 100-meter dash is about to start. She do be mad Emmy, though. Now watch Emmy closely. As she gets onto the starter blocks, her whole body seems to relax. Did I click on the wrong thing when I loaded it? No, definitely not. But it's a false relaxation. I can see that she's actually like a coiled spring. As the starter tells everyone to get set, her head snaps up and her eyes narrow slightly. Her mouth curls upward at what could be a grin and could be a growl. Could be both at the same time. When the pistol goes off, it's as if she's been unleashed from a cage. Like she was always moving at this blinding speed, but we couldn't see it happen until the starter pistol dispelled the illusion of motionlessness. As soon as she crossed the finish line, the fierce look was replaced by her normal grin. The conquering general returning to his farm. Amazing. She's really amazing. I've never seen someone move that fast. Well, don't look at me. I'm far too relaxed to run that fast. No, I think Emmy's prowess all comes from her father's side. At the mention of Emmy's father, Mrs. Abarazaki looks wistful, almost sad. He got her into running, you know. Really? I didn't know that. I leave it at that and don't say anything for a little while. I get the feeling this is something personal I shouldn't ask about. Yeah, there you go. Beeping noise. That's how you know things are different. A beeping noise suddenly emanates from Miss Abarazaki's pocket. Reaching into it, she pulls out a cell phone and looks at it. Honestly, text messages. What is he, 16? Eh? Oh, nothing. I've got to meet up with a friend of mine. Will you tell Emmy I'm very proud of her and that I'll call her later tonight? Of course. Later. While waiting for the relay to start, I appear at RIn. She seems uninterested in her surroundings, myself included. That remark she made before is still stuck in my head. Emmy's the most Emmy when she runs. It does make sense now that I think about it. After seeing her run now, I can believe that Emmy gives her all on the track. Sports are more than a hobby or even a competition to her. They're a defining aspect of her life. What about RIn, then? Does she feel the same way about art? Considering the persistence she displayed before the festival, I could easily believe it. Did I see RIn at her most RIn when she was painting the mural? The relay's about to begin, but I don't see Emmy anywhere. I thought Emmy ran the relay. She runs anchor, so she won't be running for a while yet. Ah. Did you see it? Emmy at her Emmyest? Maybe. Maybe this time. The race begins, and I cheer Emmy's teammates along as they pass the baton. Finally, I see Emmy sprinting onto the track to take the final handoff. Once again, I'm taken aback at how graceful she looks when she runs. It really is beautiful. The look of determination and fearlessness on her face only adds to the picture. Emmy at her Emmyest, I suppose. Emmy flies across the finishing line with a great leap just before ahead of the next runners, but still in first. Well, let's go down. Gotta crown the victor. See if you can find a laurel branch. That's not gonna be easy. RIn shrugs. At least we tried. We did not. Emmy is surrounded by her teammates, all of them congratulating her on the run. RIn seems to be waiting for Emmy to notice that she's arrived. It doesn't seem her style to draw attention to herself, or to emote beyond shrugging. Being more impatient than RIn, I wave to Emmy in her stead. She looks up and grins happily at us. Hey, you showed up! I would have brought you a crown of laurels, but Hisao couldn't find one. Neither did you. It wasn't my job to look. When did we assign jobs? When I said, see if you can find a laurel branch. Try to keep up. I shrug. I guess RIn's rubbing off on me. Seems it's my fault after all, Emmy. Emmy laughs at RIn and me. It's okay. I'm sure you'll make it up to me somehow. Sure. Good. So how'd I look? Very impressive. You'll notice that he had much less internal thoughts about saying that before he actually did. Emmy seems pleased with this assessment. I don't mention how much more impressive her performance is given her lack of legs. I figure she knows that already. Besides, it seems like it would take away from her efforts somehow. Great to hear. I was worried that I looked a little slow on the relay, but I guess I did fine, huh? Emmy giggles and then seems to remember something. Oh, before I forget, RIn and I are going to do something next Sunday as a post-track meet celebration. You should come along. Normally we do it out the day after, but since today is Sunday, I've got homework and class and all that stuff to take care of. Oh, sure, I'd love to. Great, it's a promise then. Oh, right, your mom said your mom wanted to say she's proud of you. She'll call you later tonight. I thought I saw her in the stands. I'm glad she made it. Emmy, you're gonna miss the medal ceremony, you crazy girl. Oh, sneaky snaps. Oh, yeah, thanks. She turns to RIn and myself. You don't have to stick around for this part. It takes forever. Besides, you should get cranking on your homework now if you don't want to be up late, Hisao. Emmy skips back to her teammates, leaving me and RIn by ourselves. Neither of us has the slightest interest in the post-competition ceremony, so we silently get away and back to the quad. RIn yawns without even trying to restrain herself and shuffles her feet around restlessly. I feel awkward, but less so than if I was with someone else. Still, I'm left hanging, not knowing what I should say next. Emmy was great, wasn't she? She was great. I'm very jealous of her. Why? Like I said, don't you think it's great to be able to really be yourself? Sounds weird coming from RIn. I don't think you, of all people, should have trouble finding a way to express yourself. Don't you have your paintings? She turns to look at me. For the first time, I see in her eyes this strange, hollow expression that I think must be unique to her. No, you see, the problem is that I'm not really sure who I am. And that's all we're getting out of that conversation, apparently. Interesting. Today's art club meeting is currently on hold while everyone waits for Namiya to show up. And I take this time to try and explain my theory about Yamaku to RIn. And I've tried to figure out what exactly about the school feels so special to me. That concept I unsuccessfully tried to explain to Yuko the other day. It's still difficult, but the track meet and the time I've spent observing my fellow students have helped my ideas mature a little. Have you noticed that people talk all the time? I can't really explain it, but once again, as I try to explain my observation, I'm struggling for words. The student body is heavily clicked, and I'm only now beginning to make sense of the intricate grouping and popularity networks, and yet the feeling of being part of a group is stronger here than I remember it being in my old schools. I'm trying to say that this school isn't like other schools, or at least the students aren't, even after discounting the obvious. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what you mean. Well, whatever then. I want to pursue the issue, but at this point, Namiya arrives. The teacher is wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief and breathing rather heavily. He quickly glances over the room, then settles down a bit. Hello, hello! Apologies for being late. Is everyone present? Good! I must confess, I haven't really planned anything for today as I've been extremely busy lately. But I'm sure we can come up with something entertaining. Anyone have any suggestions? I was thinking we could have a discussion circle since we haven't had one in a while. I at least found the last one magnificently enjoyable. There's some murmurs here and there, but nobody raises their voice in support of or against Namiya. We could delve into various movements of art, or does someone have a good topic in mind? Come on, then, throw it out there. It doesn't matter if it's silly or odd, we can always cook up something interesting. Nobody seems to be brave enough to make a suggestion. As the awkward silence refused to be broken, I lift my hand in the air. Always a bad sign. Oh, our newest friend seems to have something on his mind. Speak up, my boy, speak up. Well, I don't know about anyone else, but I've always wondered why art exists in the first place. My voice trails off. A silence sets in the room, and nobody makes a follow-up on my meek suggestion, as if everyone in the room realized what you just said was magnanimous, like, absolutely monumentously silly. Then the teacher burst into laughter. Ho ho ho, excellent! Very good indeed. Right out the gate with the big one. Fabulous! Chuckling, he shifts some papers around on his desk for a few moments. When he's done, he appears to have made some sort of decision. Very well then, let's run with this and see where it gets us, shall we? Oh my, even an old fogey like me gets excited when such delicious enthusiasm is present. Oh my, indeed. Get that noise back in your head. Let me gather my thoughts a moment so I can figure out a good starting point for everyone. For some reason, the teacher seems to be almost literally bursting with excitement. He scribbles a few things down on a loose sheet of paper, then cleans his glasses with a handkerchief. He strikes a pose, then freezes for an overly dramatic, artistic pause that spans what must have been half a minute. It's so quiet I could hear a pin drop. First, let's come up with a few questions that we would want answered, such as, what is art, and why does art exist? Anyone have any questions that might be related? The boy with sunglasses pipes up almost immediately. His voice is soft and quiet. I have a hard time making out what he says. What defines an artist? After him, another question comes up. If I fill a cardboard box with water and call it art, is it art? Everyone laughs at that, even the teacher. Great! Wonderful! All of these! Brrr! Let me start by saying that it is not a clear-cut issue by any means, and as such, I'm not going to give any answers to you. I'm only going to speak from my own perspective as a very strange dude with a salmon jacket. Scholars have argued about these sorts of questions since time immemorial, and there has never really been a broadly acceptable consensus reached. Or applicable, sorry about that one. There are, however, some qualities that most tend to be generally agreed upon. Hopefully, you all should find these acceptable as well. In short, art defines itself. It simply cannot be contained to a definition from the outside, since the boundaries of art expand and contract from forces within. It's like some sort of massive pulsating mass that you find on the back of your neck. You'd probably get it checked out, but you're not gonna. Every day, someone somewhere comes up with something completely outrageous that challenges any and all preconceptions. The core reason for this is that rather than the rational side of the mind, art appeals to the intuition, the instinct, the primal. You would find it very hard to explain why exactly it is you enjoy some particular style or piece, no? He doesn't wait for a response before continuing. This is exactly why. So, art is this sort of wild, uncontrollable thing that lurks somewhere deep in our subconscious. Now, why does it exist? Because we are lucky enough to live in a society where we don't have to worry about whether or not we're going to be getting food. And that we'll actually make it to the age of 26. Now, I apparently expects someone to pipe up with a guess, but as nobody dares to interrupt his inspired speech, he continues. It was a trick question. You see, art also validates itself. Generally speaking, you might say that art exists for no other purpose than itself. It's something that exists merely to leave a mark in history. It's the defiance of a mortal against the face of darkness. The Lord of Nightmares, as it were, as once was said. Art is truly the proof of our existence. You all should know that human culture and civilization are tightly tied to the existence of art. Then, what about the artistes? What drives a man to dedicate his life to a thing so fickle and mysterious that it even defies definition? There are many answers for this as there are artists. But if I had to put it into words, an artist doesn't make art because he can, but because he must. Nomiya takes a pause and his gaze sweeps over his audience, eyes flaring with passion. It is obvious that art touches the very soul of each and every human being in one way or another. So if you were given a chance to connect with your fellow man in such a fundamental way, how could you not? There is a poem. I'm very much fond of it, and I shall recite the most well-known part of it to you now. I feel that, for me personally, of all possible things, it captures the best essence of what it means to be an artiste. Nomiya leans against the desk as he clears his throat in preparation. Looking at some distant place, he utters the words in the heavy afternoon air with a soft basso voice. Or basso. To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. There was a solemn and unbelievably awkward silence after he finishes reciting the short fragment. Nobody dares speak a word. Nomiya clears his throat again. To be an artist is to see the world in a grain of sand. You see, dear children, without art, there would not be much to live for in this world. It is the most profound thing. He's clearly touched by this notion. I almost expect to see a lone tear rolling down his rough cheek, but it never comes. I turned to RIn and whispered to her. So, how is this a discussion circle? She shrugs nonchalantly back at me. The previous ones were the same. To his credit, Nomiya does try to get some debate going, but the club seems to be reluctant to comply. It's almost as if a bunch of artists that would deliberately spend time, exclusively away from their free time to go to an art class, or basically a bunch of social recluses and, awkward types. Can't imagine why that'd be the case. I feel a bit guilty about opening my mouth. Maybe we would have been spared from this. Oh well. As the meeting comes to a close, I realize we haven't once touched any paint or pens today, and I feel somewhat disappointed. Nami suddenly appears next to us. He seems to be still fired up from the speech he delivered. His cologne smells musky and saccharine, I believe is how that's said. At the same time, saccharine, maybe. Giving me an instant headache, even though I'm not sensitive to perfumes. He's looking at Rin like a hungry wolf. Please do not consume Rin. That is not what a Rin is for. Tezuka, do you remember Mrs. Saionji? God, I definitely said that wrong. Who visited us at the festival? I think so. That's a lie, she doesn't. I'm gonna tell you something amazing. The thing is, she's a very well-known gallerist around here. Turns out I might be able to get her to consider having some of your work put up on display. He ends his sentence with a dramatic gesture. It seems he's expecting Rin to show some sort of joyous, shocked reaction at such grand news, but she just stares at him blankly. Magnificent, isn't it? This could be a real chance for us to get ahead, girl. But now, I know what you're about to say. Yes, it would be a simple affair, but I think this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we even made it big. This could be the first step, and then, when the word is out, we strike while the iron is hot, right, Nakai? Yeah, it does sound pretty great if you're into that kind of thing. See, we should definitely not let this one pass, am I right? I don't really... It seems to be troubled for some reason. I can't figure out why. What Noya is saying does indeed sound like a possibly great thing. She looked pretty down, though, and confused. Never seen her like this before. So, what do you think? Rin looks up to her teacher's glowing face, then backs down at her desk. I'll think about it. Nomiya is at last taken slightly aback by Rin's lack of superlative delight. Superlative? Then he smiles widely at her gesture and gently pats her head. Good girl. The club meeting is finally over, and I lazily collect my things. Is it just me, or was that interaction weird? Not like weird, badly written. I mean, just weird in general. It's like almost mildly like worth thinking about. I start feeling exhausted for some reason. There isn't much to do, however, so it's over quickly. I catch up to Rin, who's left the club room just a moment earlier, so we're walking down the stairs to the ground floor while I try to go over Nomiya's passionate speech about art. And Rin seems to be lost in thought. This is unusual for her, as you might imagine. There it is. Not an unusual state for her, I've learned, but something about her expression makes me feel uneasy. Penny for your thoughts? That'd be too cheap. You're just overpricing your thoughts. I wouldn't be able to sell them anyway. I'm not sure what I'm thinking yet. That'd be fraud, too, like stealing candy from a baby. That's theft, not fraud, and I'm really glad he said that, because I was about to! I have to think about what I think. Is this about what the teacher said? Getting your work put on display and all that? She doesn't answer, but stops in her tracks as we reach the lobby. We're the only people around, so it's very quiet. Footsteps echo from a few floors up as someone hurries along a hallway. Whew. And then I yawn slightly, my goodness. I think I'm going to go somewhere elsewhere. I think she really is troubled. Want company? I can't promise much help with the thinking, but it's not like I have much else to do, and I'm supposed to do some light exercise. If you like. Wow! She actually let me come with her. Rin leads me outside to the wall behind the dormitories. There's a small back gate there, made from the same wrought iron as the main gate. It leads to the shadowy woodland park behind the school. The gate is rusty, as if it hasn't seen much use. However, it sits open, so we pass through. It's not forbidden for schools to leave the grounds, but somehow I feel a little uneasy. A path leads deeper into the forest. Tall zelkova and maple trees rustle in the wind, their canopies creating patches of chill air hanging in the places where the shadows fall. The forest smells strongly of earth, which is not surprising, what with all of the trees. I almost feel cold, even though the midsummer day is as hot as ever. Rin trudges ahead like a sleepwalker, sure-footed but with no apparent destination in mind. Her thoughts seem to be somewhere else. I follow a few steps behind, taking more care to watch where my feet land. The path follows the land uphill at a low angle, sometimes making little detours down before climbing back upward. The muted brown and gray trunks line the path on both sides, peppered with ferns and the other undergrowth. After a little while, I start getting worried. This path is still wide and clear, so there's no chance of getting lost, but it doesn't look like we have any particular destination. Nothing wrong with a bit of an aimless wandering about, but I don't want to go so far that I get too tired to walk back. I'm starting to get a little winded and my legs feel heavy. I want to stop and get a chance to catch my breath and rest my legs, but Rin keeps on going, and I have no desire to leave her out of this situation, so there you go. Where are we going? Are we going anywhere at all? Worry tree. I see. So what exactly is the worry tree? If I had to guess, probably a tree where she spends her time worrying. It's just a tree, like this. She stops in front of a particularly large maple that might or might not be the worry tree. Its lush green leaves sway lightly in the breeze, blowing through the small clearing we entered. I guessed as much. There are people who believe that you must come here to wallow in misery. If you are miserable only by people, I mean me, and the tree isn't really called anything. So if you're miserable, you talk to a tree about it? No? What? You can't talk to trees. What do you think I am, crazy? No, I didn't mean it like that. Or maybe you talk to trees. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that you're crazy, even though you probably are if you talk to trees. Take that, shamans! RIn ain't got no respect for you. I wouldn't recommend it in either case. People will think you are a weird person. No, just forget it. She looks mildly confused, for which I don't blame her at all. She tilts her head a little to the side, expression melting back to her usual one. Alright, I'm good at forgetting things. So, why are we here? Are you miserable then? I can't read the expression she makes. I hate how bad I am at interpreting RIn's mood. She doesn't answer right away, as if she herself isn't quite certain of her own mood, which she admitted to saying, she admitted to that very thing not that long ago, so that's not much of a shock, now is it? The blank stare changes into a more difficult expression as she shuffles her weight around. Finally, coming to a conclusion, RIn shrugs her shoulders. I'm going to seriously dislike that gesture. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe. I just feel kind of like I'm sinking underwater. I don't know what I should do. I don't know where I should go, that's all. Maybe it's not a big deal, but I thought walking might help. Kind of like if I go somewhere, I would know where I should go. I don't really know if it did. It really would have made sense if walking had helped decide where to go. So you don't want to try to get an exhibition? Or rather, you don't know if you do? Can't decide? RIn doesn't say anything for a while, arranging her thoughts in silence. The quiet is broken by bird song from somewhere in the treetops, followed by rustling leaves as the bird takes flight. Maybe. I'm not sure if I can have a thing like that. So far, I've only painted for myself. I don't think I could have things I don't think I could have my things on display the way I am now. This me couldn't do it. Her reason sounds like a weak excuse. I make my trademark frown, but she doesn't notice it. It's trademark now? I don't get it. The teacher certainly thinks you could. I don't think he suggested otherwise. Sounds like he's calling in favors from his friends, too. I know. He's really done a lot for me, but this might be too much. Becoming someone who can do it might be pretty hard. Maybe I couldn't do it at all. He can't do it for me, and if I let him try, I'd just sink deeper and deeper. RIn stands in front of the large maple and turns away from me. I want to close the few feet of distance between us and... I don't know. My irritation is suddenly gone, and I start feeling sympathetic towards her. I know exactly how you feel. Well, maybe I don't, but still. I think I haven't felt like I was actually in control of my own life this whole year. I'm just helplessly going with the flow. Like coming here to this school, and I didn't really choose it myself, and I certainly didn't choose this time of my life to learn that I have this condition. I still can't casually say the word out loud. It's like, yeah, it's exactly like being underwater. Like I can't breathe. RIn turns to my face again, a sad expression on her face. Is that why you look so sad all the time? I don't want you to look... I don't want to look sad like you. Do I look to you like you look to me? I don't look sad all the time. I just don't know what I should be feeling. What kind of face I should be making. Me neither. Do I look sad now? You sure do. I mean, no, I'd definitely say that she does. Not really. You look like you always do, I think. But I'm sinking. I should try to float up like a rubber duck. Quack, quack, all yellow and creepy. What's creepy about it, rubber ducky? I had to think for a few seconds about which direction I should pursue with this conversation. Then I realized it doesn't matter. You think rubber ducks are creepy? You don't? I think they look very creepy. Everything that has eyes but isn't alive is very disturbing. Like rubber ducks and reflections in mirrors. She plops down on the forest bed, leaning on the maple she named the worry tree. After wondering what to do for a minute, I sit down too, 3 feet apart from her. The forest envelops us in its embrace, and its stillness falls upon the two of us. We sit there without speaking for a long time. I can literally feel the time passing. Patches of sunlight litter the small clearing in a pattern that echoes the maple canopies. One of them falls directly on me, warming me all the way to the bone. I thought it was warning you was an omen. The trees know things. I wonder what I could do for myself, and maybe for RIn. For now, I just keep watching her from the distance. Sometimes she cranes her neck all the way back so much that it almost looks painful, and she stares up at the small patch of the sky visible past the canopy of the worry tree. Sometimes she just stares blankly ahead, as if seeing something just beyond her reach. She keeps whispering to herself, but so quietly that I can't hear her, even though I'm sitting right next to her. I only see her lips moving, like she was in the middle of a distant dream, which she might be, as she does tend to fall asleep a bit. I realize that right now I no longer feel any of the intense loneliness I feel at night just before falling asleep. I might be more like RIn than I thought. I can either give up and stay submerged under the weight of all the crap in my life, or try to change myself for the better. Her decision is different, yet the same. And unlike her, I know for sure that I can't stay like this forever. I have to change. Huh. Well, my general thought process here is that I'm on the RIn path. I was already more like Emmy on the Emmy path, you know? So I imagine on the RIn path, the best course of action is to go be more like RIn. RIn could probably do it, even though she seems to doubt herself. I have no doubts about her strength. She could do it, even if she can't. It makes me feel a little better, too, and I lean back against the tree, breathing out deeply as if for the first time in a long time. We stay that way in the small clearing until the angle of sun changes and the chilly shadows deepen. No longer warm where we sit, we leave the forest, returning along the same path we took coming in. It doesn't seem like RIn has come to a decision. I wonder if it was a bad idea for me to come along. It's all right. I don't mind. I'm sure the trees and dirt and rocks wouldn't mind either. Did you mind? No, not at all. I think it helped me, too. While we walk back towards the dormitories, the sky is changing to a deep ultramarine. The first summer starts to twinkle softly from between spots on the canopy, barely visible like tiny fireflies. I become very self-conscious about RIn's presence. I haven't thought much about girls since things fell apart with Awanako. This is kind of the same situation as then, but to be honest, I don't think it really counts for much. Not with RIn. And yet, it feels good walking next to her, even if it isn't anything more than this. At first, I think RIn agitated me quite a bit with her unpredictable behavior, but recently I feel I haven't had to be on my toes so much. I managed to let myself go a little. It makes me feel satisfied, even though ultimately I think it's more thanks to RIn than myself. She seems to be disinterested in a huge number of things, but something in her makes me try harder than I normally would. It's not that I want to impress her. I think that truly impressing RIn would take near superhuman effort just because of how she is. Instead, it's because there's this relentless feeling inside of me that I shouldn't let RIn down. It's really weird. I wonder why I started thinking like that. I don't even know what sort of expectation she has about pretty much anything. So how could I let her down? RIn has this unassuming air around her, and she doesn't really talk about stuff very often. Even today's confession of her self-doubt caught me a little bit off guard. I feel like I want to talk more with her. The realization suddenly dawns on me that RIn is basically the only person I talk to nowadays, apart from whatever I have to do or endure with Shizune, Misha, or Kenji. I feel slightly depressed. In front of the dormitories, as if summoned by my dark thoughts, we run into Kenji himself. Dear God, that sounds like something he'd do. It feels very odd seeing him outside, breathing fresh outdoor air. At least it's already dusk. I partially expect Kenji would disintegrate upon direct exposure to the sun. Kenji himself seems very insecure as well, standing around looking like he's waiting for something, but doesn't know himself what it might be. Hey Kenji, what are you doing? Hello? Rocket Ball! Who are you? It's me, Hisao. I'm not sure if you know Tezuka from Class 3-4. From his face, I can see that not only he doesn't know RIn, he also can't see her from this short distance. Oh, sup, dudes? Yeah, I guess that would make sense given her outfit. Kenji sticks his hand enthusiastically forward, almost straight into RIn's stomach. RIn looks at his outstretched hand in confusion until Kenji clears his throat and retracts his hand. There's something almost cool that he managed to do with social There's something almost cool that he managed to do with social awkwardness. It's not like I'm the most suave man on the planet, but I don't think I'll ever be able to even approach Kenji's level. I think I respect Kenji a little bit more. I don't know why you would. So, you're waiting for someone? He leans closer and lowers his voice to an agitated whisper. I see his facial muscles twitching. Come on, man, you know I can't talk about stuff here in public. They might be listening. I'm gonna have to go pick up some stuff from somewhere, and I don't want those snooping students, counsel. Hey, don't call them hags. They're really nice. To get off my case. Also, I don't trust your friend. Nothing personal. Are you sure he's trustworthy? I really considered telling Kenji about Rin's gender, but it might end up badly for one or both of them, so I decided against it. Yeah, I'm sure. He turns from me to Rin, and I immediately get the feeling that I have to prevent them from talking to each other with whatever means necessary. However, there's little I can do now apart from physical violence. In that case, would you be interested in knowing about the worst threat to mankind since they invented vegetarianism? Kenji, you just keep finding new and inventive ways to make me not like you as a person. He sounds like a vacuum cleaner salesman. I thought it was Sunday. I see you're not in the know. Yeah, man, I'm talking about man-eating cows here. Very few people know what I know, so I'm not surprised. We can't talk here, but if you'd like a pamphlet, come to my room after curfew on Mondays or Wednesdays. He suddenly reaches to his pocket and draws out a ballpoint pen and what looks like a convenience store receipt. Kenji furiously scribbles on the scrap of paper and thrusts it towards Rin. Here's the password. Memorize it and then eradicate any trace of this document. Eat it, burn it, dissolve it in acid, whatever. I take the receipt from Kenji as Rin is unable to do so and glance at it. It is indeed a receipt, apparently for 2 rice balls and 5 boxes of matches. Hope he's not planning to burn anything down. Wouldn't put it past him! On the other side is just a single written word. Honey muffin. Huh. I show it to Rin too, but she shows no reaction. Thank you. Yo, Hisao, you still in that club? The Club of Dark Arts? Fine art. Anyway, actually, just had a meeting today. Still got your wits about you? No shady mind tricks going on? Nothing personal, man, but I just have to be on top of things. Can't get caught with my pants down. Speaking of which, you should really take showers a bit later. Gotta respect that personal space. Nothing personal. Kenji looks around as if he heard something and then straightens his jacket. Okay, I gotta scoot now before it gets too late. Later, dudes, and good luck. Kenji takes off rapidly towards the main gate. Rin looks after him, frowning. We watch after Kenji's diminishing figure in silence. What's wrong with him? Technically speaking, I think he's legally blind. Oh, I see. And that's just about all you need to know. It's always for the best to just try to not think about Kenji whenever you possibly can. Always weird to see him actually interact with any of the girls, though. It seems so out of the ordinary. Also, hello. This just is happening now, apparently. I can immediately tell from the envelope that it's not about official matters of any sort. Someone actually wrote me an old-fashioned handwritten paper letter. Who bothers doing something like that in this day and age, anyway? Yeah, as unlikely as the prospect of receiving one sounds, there is definitely a letter lying on my desk. The classes for the day are over. Still feeling pretty full from the big lunch that I had unexpectedly eaten at the cafeteria, I returned to my dorm, planning on finishing my homework or finishing it. I mean, you could fish it too, I guess. And probably skipping dinner, or at least just eating light. I feel like I need to eat less than I used to. Maybe I don't use that much energy now that I don't do much beyond reading. However, the letter on my desk has naturally caught my interest. It's the first piece of mail I've received here at Yamaku, so it feels special, even if it wasn't something as rare as a handwritten letter. What causes me even more trepidation is the name of the sender, written neatly on the back of the envelope. Oh, Wanako. I have no idea why she would write to me. I haven't been in contact with anyone from my old school since I transferred, and Wanako's the last person I'd expect want to write me a letter. The last time I saw Wanako was terribly awkward. Embarrassingly so. She came to my hospital room, peeled me an apple out of courtesy, and then we practically sat in silence for half an hour. She said goodbye and didn't look me in the eye when she closed the door. Might have been a natural end to the series of visits that were probably pretty painful for both of us. Every time she visited me in the hospital, I wanted to talk to her, but something stopped me every time. Every time that I didn't speak made the next time even harder. And Wanako always had this aura of fragility around her, as if she'd shatter into pieces at the slightest disturbance. Initially, I think it might have been that delicacy that attracted me to her, but after what happened back then, it felt as if she really had shattered. She looked so sad that I didn't want to say anything that might upset her, and I never could figure out the right words to say. I told her that it wasn't her fault. She nodded, and I really think she understood that if it hadn't been that, then sooner or later something else would have made my heart give out. Yet she looked so hopelessly sad every time she opened the door and entered my room. So I never managed to say the things I wanted to say. In the end, that might have hurt her even more. Carefully, I open the envelope and draw out the folded letter from within. Here we go. Dear Hisao, how are you? I hope you're well and happy at your new school. Everyone here misses you. Almost all of our second-year class got put together in Class 3-1 for the final year, so we're pretty comfortable right now from the beginning of the year. I'm sure you would have been assigned to this class as well. I'm curious if he's going to read the whole thing. The mood among the third years seems to be very anxious about the final exams, even though they're so far away. The teachers are badgering us about it all the time. Even old Mr. Takabana, who is, by the way, our homeroom teacher this year. Would you believe it? I was sure that he'd retire after our second year, but here he is, nagging everyone about studying for exams. I think things like that are the main reason why the mood among the third years is so nervous. I must admit that I'm somehow losing confidence in myself as well, even though I've always fared reasonably well in exams. It's so weird to think we're already seniors, isn't it? Time has really flown past. I wonder where it went. The new first year seems so young and somehow really innocent. I keep wondering if I was like them in my first year. I've been feeling nostalgic like this for the whole first trimester. There are other things I want to say. I'm writing to you because I felt there are things I should have said after the incident back in winter. I really regret that I wasn't able to say them in person, and I have no excuse for it. How's it gonna go? Oh. The truth is, after the first time when he crumpled it up midway through, I just didn't know. The truth is, the times when I visited you at the hospital made me worried about you. I'm not talking about your health. You seem to become more distant and disheartened. It was natural after something like that happened, I'm sure, but somehow I got the feeling that you'd given up on something back then. Happiness, maybe? I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I'm really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered the most, even though I like you so much. At least now, finally, I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days in February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. And that's what I would say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted off so far if I had just said something. I hope you managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it also feels more final, somehow. I wonder if we'll meet again. Perhaps it's for the best that we don't. Still, if you'd like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you're doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Awanako. After finishing the letter, I fold it like it was and place it on my desk. I don't know what to think of this. I feel empty and confused. Why now, after all this time? Just yesterday, I decided that I can't let myself stay like this, that I'd try to get on top of my own life. Reading this letter just reminds me of what could have been. Of course, I wish that I didn't have to be here. I'd want to be in the same class with Awanako again. Maybe you'd talk every day now and go on dates. My life didn't go like that. I didn't really need to be reminded of this. Awanako needed to write this letter for her own sake, and I'm glad for her that she could, but it would have been better if I hadn't read it. Of course, she is right. I thought of the same thing yesterday. I'd fallen into a pit of depression and now have to try to climb out. I rip out a page from my notebook and, after a moment of thinking how to frame my words, write a short reply to Awanako. I find it difficult to be really honest to her, but at least I try to appear somewhat convincing. I don't write her about Yamako at all. I doubt she'll write me again, but I don't feel at all sad about it. I fold my own letter to her, and as I have no envelope, set it next to Awanako's. I'll mail it to her later. Then I lie back on my bed, looking at the monotone gray ceiling. A bird sings outside of my window, and a sudden gust of wind flutters my curtains. The summer afternoon feels still. Who leaves their window open, I swear? As if time had stopped for a brief moment. I think about all the things I've lost and will never regain. We're getting somber up in this place. Let me tell you something, lad. My goodness. Thus, the languid days of mid-June pass by. I mail my letter to Awanako and receive no reply. Having decided to ditch the old me, I start observing my fellow students even closer than I did before, hoping to understand how other people cope with their own issues. I start seeing things I didn't before, and it makes me wonder if I've been wrong twice. Superficially, everyone is abnormal, yet so strikingly normal that it shocked me at first. I admired the way my new schoolmates turned my prejudices around just like that, simply by being themselves. Now that I've gotten used to it, I begin noticing other kinds of tones in the people surrounding me every day. There's this soft, numb sadness all around me. I can see the effort everyone has to make just to get through the day and how it weighs on their shoulders like it weighs on mine. Even the brightest smile is just slightly subdued. Every outburst of annoyance just slightly dampened. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. I try to think what it means when I can learn from others. I wonder if deep down everyone is as lost as I am. Is there even one person in here who's truly found peace? I start to feel doubtful about myself once again. I can't decide whether these people are happy, unhappy, or if they've just learned to cope and now live in an unfeeling limbo like I did all spring. I escape from these feelings into the towering piles of books I carry to my room from Yuko's sanctuary. After realizing that this will just shut me down even more, I start going to the art club's room more often, usually whenever I can. RIn too seems to spend more time in there than her own classroom. I've often seen her totter towards the door at the very end of our corridor. That wooden door in the room behind it, smelling of paint and paper, seems to mean more to her than the rest of the world combined. She says she has special permission to use the room, which I don't doubt at all. I don't think Nomiya would deny RIn anything. He seems to dote on her like an uncle upon a favorite niece. The object of his affection, however, has no favorites. She says she appreciates the teacher a lot for going the extra mile for her sake, but even when she says that, her expression is the same as always. It's as if she was talking about a particularly unremarkable rock that she saw the other day. I can't really figure out their relationship. RIn doesn't seem to let anyone close. I don't think even Emmy could say she'd crossed the gap that appears to separate RIn from the rest of the world. I don't understand it. She seems so indifferent, yet so passionate at the same time. Somewhere, the school bell rings, the last call of the day. I realize I've been zoning out for who knows how long. Dazed, I sit up straighter, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. The pungent smell of linseed oil and turpentine mix my nostrils. As I draw a deep breath, I feel drowsy and lightheaded. It's already this late and a few club members left early, so it's just me, RIn, the teacher, and 2 other girls who are just about to leave. RIn do be making some beautiful paintings with her feet, though. RIn is sitting to my right, slowly working on a painting while I'm idling the time away. I don't think she realizes I've been watching her this whole time. With a nimble move of her delicate angle, she dips the brush into crimson paint and presses it lightly onto the canvas. The stain spreads around as if the brush was bleeding. Her progress has slowed down to a crawl by now. I've learned that this is dangerous for her technique, as the paint must be not allowed to dry before she's finished. Gotcha. It occurs to me that I'm literally watching paint dry, and yet somehow I'm not feeling bored, despite spacing out just now. Most of the time, the art club is very relaxed and freeform, apart from times when Nomiya gets really excited about some techniques or style he wants to teach us about. Everyone is free to pursue their own interests. Lacking one, I keep floating around without a direction. I try this and that, but nothing really leaves me with a deeper impression, not to mention that I don't seem to have a special knack for anything. Well, I did get praised for my attempt at watercolors, and I felt pretty good about that myself, but that's it. I suppose it's to be expected. I joined the art club mostly on a whim, after all. I'm thinking that maybe I should quit the club, if it's going to be this pointless, but there's nothing really wrong with pointlessness, and I can't exactly say I'm unhappy. Unsatisfied, maybe, but I've only got myself to blame for that. As the pair of girls exit the club room with a cheerful bye-bye, Nomiya stands up from his desk. His chair scoots back with a loud screech that breaks the harmony of this quiet afternoon. Yeah, he tends to do that. He taps a pile of papers in his hand twice against the tabletop in order to straighten them, then stretches his back. I have a faculty meeting to attend, so I can't stay. I have to do some paperwork later, so if you want to stay, we can talk then. Sorry about this. There are 2 people here, but he's really only talking to one of us. Nomiya spends extra hours of his time mentoring RIn after official club hours are over, and I'll bet he'd like to discuss his plan of getting RIn's art into a gallery a little more. It's alright. I think I'll probably be here, but it's not a big deal if I'm not. I don't really have much going now. RIn answers without moving her eyes from her work in progress. The tone of her voice is neither the polite kind expected when talking to a teacher, nor her usual monotone. So, I won't need to send a search party if you aren't here? Yes, no thanks. I don't like to party. We can talk later. If there's anything that is unsurprising in this world, the fact that RIn is not a party animal is most assuredly not that. Good girl. Smiling, the teacher picks up the rest of his papers and makes his way to the door. I glance at the clock above it and then look at my watch to double check, because that makes sense. They're 3 minutes apart, but nonetheless, the club meeting's time is over now. RIn seems intent on staying here to work on her piece while waiting for the teacher. Can't quite imagine what their one-on-one time would be like. Would they actually discuss anything? RIn is always so subdued in what she says, and when she does say something, it's difficult to understand what she's talking about. Maybe Nomiya just talks endlessly like he does at art club meetings, letting RIn absorb what she will from his infinite well of art knowledge, like a sunflower turning to face the glowing sun. I feel like you might be giving him slightly more credit. Do you mind if I stay? Thought maybe I'd give watercolors another try. I blurt out the excuse, sort of accidentally embarrassing myself. RIn doesn't take her eyes off her painting. Okay. I shift around in my chair, then get to fetching a cup of water, brushes, colors, and some paper. As I accidentally pause the game, I briefly contemplate the existential nature of the fact that I have always been able to bear witness to a pause screen every now and then, as if my entire existence is merely that of a novel. I try not to think about such things for too long, lest the existential dread truly seep in. I truly don't sleep some nights. The sound of my footsteps invades the still afternoon air. Before starting, I try to recall what the teacher told us. An important philosophy of the medium. Working with watercolors means more working with water than working with color. Okay. I try to keep that in mind and dip my tiny sable brush into the water cup. I'm mixing yellow and blue, which is always a dangerous combination. Trying to capture the sunlit treetops outside of the window. The sun is low, so the yellows are more pronounced and everything looks darker. I still can't quite connect what I see with what my hand does with the paints, but it's a passable attempt for my level. After a while, I start losing my focus and move the paper aside, deciding to watch RIn work for a while instead. That little while stretches first into a long while and then into a really long while. RIn paints, her entire being fully concentrated on her brush between her slender toes and the painting coming to life one stroke at a time. She seems determined. That's a really, really accurately made skull there. Impressive. She seems determined and yet at the same time relaxed, effortlessly moving the brush around, never hesitating. Colors meet and part, mix and cover each other on the canvas, bending to her quiet will. I don't know anything about composition, structure, or any of that stuff, but I really like RIn's paintings. I like how she looks when she paints. I think you're getting smitten with this odd gal. As usual, the silence between us compels me to speak rather than merely wait for her to open up. She might end up saying nothing at all. Do you mind if we talk? I don't mind. I kind of wanted to ask you about why you get so weird about this thing the teacher wants to arrange for you. RIn picks up a tube of paint and squeezes it between her toes on a palette almost as easily as someone with opposable thumbs would. Taking up a brush again, she replies, "A lot of things, and some not things. Unthings. I don't think that's a word. Do you want to talk about it?" I try to reach out to her clumsily, ignoring the embarrassing feeling of awkwardness. RIn keeps her focus on the painting, spreading more and more paint on the canvas, her lips forming a perfectly straight line as she concentrates on the job. Not really. Talking is hard. I mean, it's not hard. I'm talking even now, but saying the right things is really hard for me. Yeah, I get that. But also, I feel like RIn obviously has something more to her than merely just not having arms. I think she might actually have a communication disorder. It's not really my place to be able to speculate on things of that nature, it's just the impression I've sort of been given. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there's something about the way that her face shows emotion. I kind of get the impression that in her mind, everything she says and does makes perfect sense, but it doesn't to anybody that's around her when she talks. And I get the feeling that that might, I don't know, bug her. I just constantly see her with these grimaces, usually immediately after someone seems to misinterpret what she's trying to say. I feel like that might be the case, and I've known a few, communication disorder-based people in my life. I'm technically one of them, so I kind of understand, I feel. And I'm just assuming that that's the case considering, how freakishly well-written every other story in this game has been. That it would make sense for it to be that way. No matter what, I just can't say the things I want. Well, that sounds weird. It's true. I say all kinds of things that I don't really mean all the time, and sometimes I forget words, and then I use the wrong words. I even come up with new words for things that already have some. That's the worst thing. I get really nervous, and everything comes out a mess, and even I don't really understand what I want to say. I think there's something wrong with me that makes it all like this. Remember when I said I can only think of 4 things at the same time? I nod wordlessly. It's not really 4. I mean, it is 4, but everything else is also there kind of in the background. Like being at an amusement park and a beehive at the same time, but that's not the point. I used to do better, like 6 or 7 things. I think so, at least. I feel like I'm becoming dumber. I think everyone has times when they feel like they can't say the right things. But it's there all the time. Stronger and deeper. Yeah, deeper is a good word. I like that word. Deeper. It's that feeling of being underwater. Maybe it's just art. The more I paint, the more words I forget. Maybe at some point I'll forget how to speak completely. It feels like I'm slowly forgetting everything. Do you remember what you thought about things 3 or 4 years ago? I don't. A long pause ensues, during which time seems to bend around itself, almost tying itself tying itself into a knot. Weird. I don't think I've ever heard RIn talk this earnestly and for so long about anything before. It's like I'm fading away from the world. See, that's the face I'm talking about, man. RIn's foot has stopped its work on the canvas, and she's staring at her painting, unmoving, as if gazing at some faraway horizon. Sunlight briefly glints in the corner of her onyx eyes. I didn't even think to call it that color. Something floats up into the top layer of RIn's being, and she lets out a long breath. Then she blinks, and it's gone. Paintings stay behind. When I look at my old things, I remember what I was thinking back when I made them. They make me feel like I can be with all the past me's when I was different me. I guess they're proof of my existence. She uses the exact same words Nomiya used when he spoke to us of the nature of art. I didn't think RIn was paying any attention back then. Or maybe she wasn't, and she came to the conclusion herself. That's possible, too. I wonder if she was listening, or whether she had heard the same passionate speech from Nomiya before. Either way, I feel overwhelmed. Boy, you are complicated. I would have taken up writing a diary. Her eyes quickly flicker to my direction and then back to the painting, but she doesn't pick up the brush anymore. That's a great idea. Why didn't I ever think of that? Are you being sarcastic? What sarcasm? I don't know if that's a joke, RIn. I don't call her on the joke, if it is one. Right at that moment, Nomiya returns from his meeting. He waves to us a very melodramatic hello, mildly surprised to see me here along with his pet student. Walking with a boisterous gait to his desk, he drops his papers upon it. He picks up a handkerchief and cleans his glasses with incredibly meticulous care before walking over to us. Before he's within earshot of us, RIn says something to me in a quick, quiet voice. Change is the scariest thing in the world to me. And I seriously don't know if I want to change into a person who could do the thing the teachers want me to do. I don't know if I could even if I wanted to. There's a lot of pain on that face. Hello again. Hello. What's going on? He smiles a bit sheepishly, looking at both of us with an uninhibited interest. Nothing. We were just talking about that thing with your acquaintance in the gallery for RIn's works, sort of. Oh, any decisions? I look at RIn, who's trying to arrange the bothered expression on her face into something else. Oh boy, okay. Anyway, I don't think I have much else to say other than that you should go for it. I think you'd be a big hit, because it would be exciting. Is it just me, or does this route have more choices? This is the first, triple choice I've had in, a very long time. I'm just trying to think, you know? Okay. Well... Again, I think the bad ending thing is always constantly making me overthink things. So far, my gut has seen me through a fair bit of this stuff so far, you know? Okay, well, knowing what I know of RIn, which isn't a lot, but, just from what I do know, I don't think she would want to be a big hit, so I don't feel like that would appeal to her in any way, because it would be exciting. Again, I just don't think that feels much like RIn. Whereas this last statement, it isn't like you at all to hesitate like this. That much is true. RIn has always just kind of said and done stuff, you know? I feel like she should just feel what she feels and live it. Whether or not that's the right choice, I haven't the slightest. This isn't like you. You told me that people should say things they can't just because they can. Now you're being all wishy-washy yourself about something this important. I don't think I want to talk about this. I'm going. Uh-oh. I may have made a massive error. Oh boy. RIn stands up and trots out of the room without anyone saying anything more. I'm sorry. I think I made her upset. Nah, don't worry about it. She'll be fine, I'm sure. I'll talk to her later. Nomiya looks at me over his circular pink glasses, smiling sympathetically. You've made friends with her then, Nakai? Yeah, well, something like that, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. To be honest, I'm not really sure, nor do I entirely know if I'd be able to actually get an answer out of RIn about that. It's more like me and RIn just tend to hang around each other irregularly, talking or not about something that more often resembles some twisted mockery of philosophy rather than normal everyday things that friends chat about. Well, that's all good, isn't it? You're a new student, and we should be promoting integration into the student body and such. Can't remember all the buzzwords they spew at the faculty and Yamaku Foundation meetings, but that's how it is. Shizuka isn't the most social person around these parts either. Yeah, that's definitely true. That almost was literally word for word what I was saying as I started reading that. Ugh. So, she's talked about my suggestion to you? No, she has not. Oh, no, not really. I think it's been more me pressing on her to decide something. Maybe I shouldn't have. To be fair, quite literally all of those things, technically we're still pressing her. So, if there was a better option, I don't know what it was. No, I'm sure it's fine. I'm too soft with her even when I shouldn't. I don't really know how to handle Suzuka's. She's so independent and willful. I wonder if this is what every old geezer of an art teacher who got his hands on a young and fiery prodigy felt like. He chuckles ironically to himself a little bit, turning to face Rin's latest work, which he left drying on the easel. She departed so abruptly that I wonder if she considers it finally finished. So, let's see the painting then. He leans in closer, peering at the canvas. It draws you in, doesn't it? Nomiya stands back, his face a dreamy, nostalgic visage. I don't answer him, as he seems to be taking my agreement as a given. I sometimes stay here after hours just to look at Suzuka's paintings. She's really just prodigious. Prejudice? That makes more sense, yeah. And at such a young age, I get shivers just thinking of what she could become with a few more years of refinement. That's what makes an artist, remember? This is it. They take a piece of the world and reshape it in their own image. Metaphorically, of course. I mean, sculptors quite literally do that, especially if they do it into a mountain. Looking at her makes you wonder what the world looks like through her eyes. It's a wonderful thing, to be young and full of passion. The most extraordinary time of your life. You would do well to remember that, Nakai. Yes, sir. It's so silly. People always ask artists, where do you get your ideas? As if ideas were something sold at the market for pocket change. You can't explain inspiration. For people like Suzuka, it's like breathing. It's an instinct. And I've met maybe one or two with the same kind of raw potential, but no amount of potential will amount to anything if one doesn't work to realize it. It's practice, technique, skill. Draw for an hour every day for a few years, and even the most hopeless case becomes a passable artist. Suzuka's not brilliant because she was born with a natural talent for this kind of thing. She's brilliant because she works harder than anyone ever since she learned to hold a pen, most likely. And all of it with her feet, no less. Absolutely phenomenal. Silence finally lands in the club room as Nomiya lets himself get drawn back into Rin's painting, gently murmuring acceptance towards the still wet canvas. What kind of things do you paint yourself? As if walking from a revere? Okay, it doesn't matter. Review. He looks at me, surprised at my talking to him. Oh, I don't. Not anymore. I became an art teacher only after my career in that field came to an end. Now I just pass on knowledge to the next generation. That's a bit of a bummer. Why do I get the impression that that's because maybe you failed in the art world at some point? The way Nomiya answers is curious, both giving and withholding information. I feel like asking more, but he cuts in before I get the chance. Now you should run along, my boy. It's almost dinner time, isn't it? Yes, sir. Have a good evening. You too. I quickly collect my stuff and step out into the deserted hallway, leaving the teacher alone with my musings. The weekend will be here soon. It's amazing how fast time flies here. I promised Emmy I'd join her for the celebration of her triumph at the track meet last week. That should be plenty of fun. That's the hope. But I can't say that I know. We're just hoping for the best on that one. Boy, howdy. Let me tell you.